First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. It's the brother Aliyah, coming with a quick video, right? I believe I'm going to title this Certain Spirits Was Created Just to Test You, right? Like we know it was spirits created for vengeance, right? To appease the Most High, but it was also spirits created to test you, right? But let's read this in Sirach chapter 39 or Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. Right? Verse 29. Fire, hail, and famine, and death, and all these were created for vengeance, right? So you got certain spirits created, just to send death and destruction on the earth, right? But you also have spirits that was created to test you, like how Job got tested by the deceiving spirit went to Ahab, like Satan tried to tempt Yahweh Shai, right? And through the spirit, we about to touch on all that, right? So this is the book of First Kings, chapter 22, verse 19. And he said, Hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him, on his right hand and on his left. Right? So you got the host of heaven standing in front of the Lord, you know, meaning the spirits and the angels. Right? Verse 20. And the Lord said, Who shall persuade Ahab? So the Most High is talking to these spirits, right? And these evil angels, like Psalm 78, and I believe, let me get that real quick. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 78, and verse number 49. He casts upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, and indignation, and trouble by sending evil angels among them, right? Like you got the good angels, right? Raphael, Michael the archangel, but you also got evil angels and evil spirits, right? So back in First Kings chapter 22 and verse 20, and the Lord said, Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. So you got the spirits out there talking to the Most High, like, you know, like they trying to figure out who gonna go get the job done, you know? So see, all these spirits, they answer to the Most High, right? It's no such thing as angels disobeying the Lord's will, none of that, right? So verse 21, and there came forth a spirit and stood before the Lord and said, I will persuade him, right? So you had a spirit that came, hey, he walked up forward, right? He walked up closer. He said, I'm gonna be the one to go persuade Ahab, to tempt him, you know. And that's the same thing with us through the spirit. 24/7 spirits is sent forth to test you, right? It happened to Job, which was a perfect man. It happened to Yahushua, which was a perfect man. We all striving to be perfect, like Matthew 5 and 48 tells us to do, you know. So you think the spirits ain't gonna come after you, right? Of course they're gonna come after you, you know. Verse 22. And the Lord said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets, and said, Thou shalt persuade him and prevail also. Go forth and do so. Right? So this spirit said, I'm gonna go forth and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all of Ahab's prophets. And the Lord said, Go do that. Right? So the Lord sent certain spirits to go test you. Let's get another account. Let's get Job. Job was sent to go test Satan. Salakia. Satan was sent to go test Job, right? Let's get that real quick. Job chapter 2. in verse, Salakia, Job chapter 2 and verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God, meaning the angels, right, and the spirits of heaven, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. Verse 2. And the Lord said unto Satan, from whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth. So, hey, Yahweh, he asked Satan, where you just come from. Of course, Yahweh knows, right? And Satan said he was going to and fro on the earth. What you think he meant by that, right? Meaning he was hopping on people, getting them to go off, testing them, right? Getting some people put to death, you know. That's what Satan was doing on the earth. Satan has a job on this earth, right? Satan wasn't just created to sit in heaven all day. He's running to and fro, around the four corners of the earth, you know, testing people, casting out judgment like the rest of these spirits in Ecclesiasticus, the 39th chapter, verse 28 down to verse 31, right? Back at verse 2 in Job chapter 2. And the Lord said unto Satan, from whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? So Yahweh, he's saying to Satan, did you try to test Job yet? You know, and it's proven Satan don't got no say, so he got to listen to what the Most High say, you know, right? Just like the rest of these spirits. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth Yahweh and escheweth evil, right? So Job was a perfect man. So the Lord wanted to test Job to see if he would go off, when all hell was breaking loose in his life, right? One that fears Yahweh and escheweth evil, question mark, right? And still he holdeth fast his integrity all through thou movest me against him, although thou movest me against him, to destroy him without cause. And Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. Yeah, all that a man have will he give for his life. But put forth thy hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, he is in thy hand, but save his life, right? Hey, so the Lord gave Satan dominion over Job, but he said to save his life, meaning don't kill him, right? Verse 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his feet unto his crown, right? So, hey, ultimately the Most High sent Satan to judge, uh, to test Job, right? And that's what these spirits are created to do, you know, right? And it's only if you're not fasting and praying, and meditating in the scriptures, you will be tempted, and you will fall short or get overthrown, you know. Verse 8, and he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the asses. Then said his wife unto him, so this Job's wife speaking to him, doest thou still retain thy integrity? Right? So basically, Job's wife asking him, are you still going to keep fearing the Lord, right? After all the things that you're going through, right? And then she said, curse God and die, right? So she's Job's wife telling him to curse God, you know. His wife she don't fear the Lord. Hey, but Job do fear the Lord, right? Verse 10. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh, right? So Job wife was, hey, she was speaking madness. Because Job understood if you was going through things, that mean the Lord was dealing with you, right? But his wife didn't understand that. So Job said, you speaking as one of these foolish women, right? Verse 10, reading on to verse 10. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? Right? So Job understood, when you come to serve Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai, it's just not going to be damn uh, peaches and cream, right? It's not just going to be good things that happen to you. You're going to have to go through things. You're going to have to be brought through the fire, right? Job understood that. Shall we receive good at the hand of Yahweh, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips, right? So even though Satan smote Job, right? Yahweh sent Satan to smote Job, right? Job stood and folded. He still remained fearing the Lord, and that's how you got to be through the Spirit, you know. Even though you're going through things, you can't quit. You can't go back into the world, right? Because ultimately the Lord, He's putting you through that, to see if you're gonna remain strong. He's ultimately building you up, right? Let's go to Sirach chapter 2 and verse 1, or Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 1. My son, if that Ecclesiasticus 2 and 1, my son, if thou come to serve Yahweh, prepare thy soul for temptation. And who's casting out the temptation? It's these spirits that was created to do so, you know. So when you come into the truth, it's not just going to be easy. If Job got tempted, by Satan, if Yahweh Shai had to get tempted, you're going to have to be tempted, by these demonic forces and spirits sent from above high, right? Sent from the Most High, right? Let's go to Hebrews 12 and verse 6. So, Hebrews chapter 12 and verse number 6. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourge every son whom he receiveth, right? And that's why he sent Satan to go test Job, right? Because he loved Job. He knew Job was a perfect man. That's why Satan went to go test Yahweh, right? Because of course that's his only begotten son, right? It says, for whom the Lord loveth, he chastiseth and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastising, Yahweh dealeth with you as with sons. And Job endured temptation. Yahweh shall endure temptation. You gotta do the same thing, right? And that's how you know the Lord is dealing with you, when you endure those temptations, right? For what son is he whom the Father chastiseth not, right? So if you're not dealing with stuff on a daily, if you're not catching all hell, right? You feeling at an all-time low, hey, you should kind of be scared, because the Lord really not dealing with you like that, right? Because Job was perfect, and the Lord sent Satan to go test him. We know Yahweh Shah was perfect. He got tested by Satan, right? Let's get that account after this, right? Now that's it on that. All right, let's get Satan going to tempt Yahweh Shai, right? And how did Yahweh Shai defeat Satan? Right, by fasting and praying, right? This is Matthew chapter 4 and verse number 1. Then was Yahweh Shai led up of the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, talking about Satan in this context. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered, right? So, hey, Yahushua, he knew if you fasted and prayed, right, that's how you fight these spirits, right? And the top and the rankings demon was coming to test him, Satan, right? Verse 3. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the son of Yahweh, command that these stones be made bread, right? So Satan is trying to tempt Yahweh. Verse 4, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahweh. So he was rebuking this spirit with the scriptures, right? You know, verse 7, Yahweh said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again, the devil taking him up into an exceeded high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. So basically, Satan is trying to get Yahweh Shai to what's the word I'm looking for? He's trying to get him to basically denounce the truth, you know, and just go along with, you know, with Satan, be wicked, right? He's trying to get him to go to hell off, basically, right? Verse 9, and and said unto him, all these things will I give thee. That's the word I was looking for, sell out, right? And said unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me, right? You know, and Yahweh Shai is not going to sell out to Satan, right? Come on now. Then said Yahweh Shai unto him, get thee, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him, right? So after, you know, after Yahweh Shai, what's the word I'm looking for? After he wasn't tempted by Satan, right? Satan departed from him, right? Because Satan knew it was nothing he could do with the Son of God, right? You know, but let's get and how did Yahweh Shai defeat Satan? Fasting and praying. You know, that's what you got to do through the Spirit. Let's get 1 Corinthians 7:5. You got to fast and pray, right? And Paul understood that. 1 Corinthians 7:5. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency, right? So even Paul saying, if you want to defeat Satan, you gotta fast and pray. You want to defeat these evil spirits that you dealing with, you gotta fast and pray. You know, every time you go off, and you want to fast a day for that, right? Every time you go off, you know, every time you letting your lust, right, rule over your spirit, you know, you want to fast those demons away, right? Let's go to the book of Matthew chapter 17 and verse number 11. Right, so his spirit's literally created just to test you, right? And if you're not meditating in the scriptures, watching videos, getting built up in the spirit, fasting and praying, you will be overthrown. You know, and that's something I myself have to do, right? What I want, right? This is Matthew chapter 17, verse 18. And Yahweh shall rebuke the devil, and he departed out of him, right? And the child was cured from that very hour, right? So Yahweh shall rebuked a certain child with an evil spirit on him, you know, and the spirit was cast out from that child within that same hour, right? Verse 19. Then came the disciples to Yahweh Shai apart and said, why could not we cast him out, right? So the disciples wasn't able to cast out that evil spirit, but Yahweh Shai was able to do it, right? Verse 20. And Yahweh Shai said unto them, because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, when you have faith, Salakia, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Right? Salakia. This the verse I wanted. Oh yeah, Salakia is the next verse. Verse 21. Howbeit, this kind, meaning this evil spirit, right, goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Right. So some evil spirits can't leave you unless you pray and fast, right? So we should all be praying and fasting more, in these last days, right? So Satan tempt you not, so these evil spirits tempt you not, right? I was expecting this lesson to be longer than this, but I believe that's all I had. Again, giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem for Mashiach wa Malak Yahweh Shah, right? For giving me the spirit to do this lesson, right? You know, fast and pray. So say and tempt you not, right? Brother Aliyah, from the angels of Yahweh, Kwan Yasharala, and Shalom.